Imagine you've never seen fire before, not once in your entire life. No candles, no lighters, no stoves, nothing. Now imagine you're walking through a dry grassland, and suddenly the sky cracks open with a blinding flash. The ground shakes, and then the world starts burning. Trees explode into flames. Animals scream and run. The air smells like nothing you've ever experienced. The heat hits your face, and it feels like the sun fell from the sky. This is what happened to your ancestors. And their reaction to that moment changed everything about what it means to be human. For millions of years, our ancestors lived in complete darkness after sunset. No light, no warmth, just the cold, the sounds of predators and fear. They were not at the top of the food chain. They were somewhere in the middle. Leopards hunted them. Hyenas stole their food. Snakes bit them in the dark. And then, one day, they encountered fire. But here's what most people get wrong. They didn't just discover fire one afternoon and start roasting meat. That's not how it happened at all. The real story is much stranger, much scarier, and took over 1,000,000 years to unfold. And it started with the single most terrifying day in early human history. About 1.5 to 2 million years ago, somewhere in East Africa, a group of early humans, probably Homo erectus, witnessed a wildfire for the first time. Now we need to understand something. Wildfires weren't rare. Lightning struck the dry African grasslands constantly. Fire was always there, but for the longest time, early humans reacted to it the same way every other animal did. They ran. Think about it. If you're a creature with no concept of what fire is, what do you see? You see something that moves on its own. It grows. It consumes everything it touches. It roars. It's hot. It hurts, and it kills. To an ancient human brain, fire would have looked alive, like a predator. Maybe the most dangerous predator they'd ever seen. Because unlike a lion, you can't fight fire. You can't hide from it, and it doesn't get tired. Every instinct in their body told them one thing: get away from it. Now, and for hundreds of thousands of years, that's exactly what they did. They ran from fire, just like the zebras, just like the antelope, just like everything else. But then something changed. Something that no other animal on Earth ever figured out. After a wildfire passed through, the landscape was transformed. And this is where early humans started behaving differently from other animals. You see, hawks and some birds actually follow wildfires. They know that fires flush out small animals, insects, lizards, rodents, and they swoop in to feast on creatures fleeing the flames. Scientists have even observed hawks carrying burning sticks to spread fire on purpose. Early humans likely did something similar. After the fire passed, they noticed something. The burned landscape was full of food. Animals that couldn't escape lay on the ground, already cooked. Seeds and nuts that were normally too hard to crack were now soft and split open. Insects were everywhere, exposed and easy to grab, and the ground was warm under their feet. Imagine that first bite of cooked meat. You've eaten raw meat your entire life. Tough, stringy, hard to chew, sometimes making you sick. And now, this, soft, warm, the flavors are completely different. Your body can sense that this is better somehow, easier to eat, more satisfying. This wasn't a conscious decision. They didn't think cooking is more efficient for caloric extraction. Their body simply told them, more of this, find more of this. And so they started lingering near burned areas, waiting for fires to pass. Scavenging from the aftermath. Here's where it gets really interesting. Over thousands of generations, something shifted. Instead of only returning after fires died out, some groups started staying closer to active fires, not running immediately, observing. They noticed patterns. Fire was dangerous, yes, but it also did something remarkable. At night, when they sat near a burning tree or smoldering brush, the predators didn't come. Think about what that meant. For millions of years, Nighttime was the most dangerous part of existence. Leopards, hyenas, wild dogs, they all hunted in the dark. Every night was survival. Every sound was a potential death sentence. But fire changed that equation completely. Predators were afraid of fire. They wouldn't come near it. For the first time in human history, night wasn't terrifying. Night was safe. And this is when fire went from being something they feared to something they desperately wanted to keep. Scientists believe early humans didn't make fire for a very, very long time. Instead, they became fire keepers. They found natural fires from lightning strikes, from volcanic activity, and they kept them burning. This sounds simple. It wasn't. Keeping a fire alive was one of the most important jobs in early human society, and probably one of the first real jobs that humans ever had. Think about what's required. You need to constantly feed it. You need dry wood, dry grass, dry leaves. You need to protect it from rain, from wind, from being stepped on, from going out while the group sleeps. If the fire died, you couldn't just make another one. You had to wait. Wait for another lightning strike, another wildfire, and that could take weeks, months, maybe longer. Some researchers believe that losing fire was catastrophic for early human groups. It meant going back to the dark, back to the predators, back to raw meat and cold nights. It might have meant death for the entire group. So the person who kept the fire alive was vital. This might have been one of the first forms of human specialization. Not everyone hunted. Not everyone gathered. Someone had to watch the fire. Always. And here's something fascinating. We found archaeological sites where the same fire pit was used repeatedly for thousands of years. Layers upon layers of ash and charcoal in the same spot. This tells us that once a group had fire, they did everything possible to never let it go out. Some researchers believe that fire wasn't just a tool. It became something almost sacred. The first thing humans ever worshipped. The first god that kept them safe. Now let's talk about what fire did to the human body, because this part is mind-blowing. A Harvard researcher named Richard Wrangham proposed something called the cooking hypothesis. His argument is simple but radical. Cooking food is what made us human. Here's why. Raw food is hard to digest. Your body has to work incredibly hard to break it down. That means you need a big gut, a large stomach and long intestines to process everything, and running a big gut takes massive amounts of energy. But cooking does something magical. It breaks down the tough fibers. It denatures proteins. It gelatinizes starches. It's essentially, cooking pre-digests your food before it even enters your body. So what happened? Over hundreds of thousands of years of eating cooked food, the human gut shrank. We didn't need that big digestive system anymore. And all that energy that used to power the gut got redirected. Where? To the brain. The human brain uses about 20% of our body's total energy. That's insane for an organ that's only 2% of our body weight. No other animal can afford a brain this expensive. But we could, because cooking made our food so efficient that we had energy to spare. Fire literally grew our brains. It made us smarter. And being smarter made us better at controlling fire, which made us even smarter. It was a feedback loop that eventually produced us. But fire didn't just change our bodies. It changed our minds and our relationships. An anthropologist named Polly Wiesner studied the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. She analyzed what people talked about during the day versus what they discussed at night around the fire. During the day, 80% of conversations were practical. Work, food, complaints, logistics. Boring stuff. But at night, around the fire, something completely different happened. Over 80% of nighttime conversations were stories, adventures, tales about distant relatives, spiritual experiences, funny things that happened. Legends Fire created the world's first social media. Think about it. A campfire gathers people in a circle. Everyone can see each other's faces in the flickering light. The darkness outside creates an intimate bubble. You can't go anywhere, it's dangerous out there. So you stay, and you talk. Scientists believe this is where human language truly evolved. Not in the hunt, not in the gathering, but at the fire. Because at the fire, for the first time, humans had both the time and the safety to sit and communicate complex ideas. Stories, gossip, planning, teaching, bonding. Fire extended the human day by several hours. Before fire, when the sun went down, everything stopped. After fire, humans gained 3 to 4 extra waking hours every single night. And they used those hours to become social creatures in a way no other animal ever had. This is why we still love sitting around campfires today. It's why candle-lit dinners feel romantic. It's why fireplaces make us feel safe and cozy. It's programmed into us after 1 million years of evolution. For the longest time, maybe over 1 million years, humans could use fire but couldn't make it. They were fire keepers, not fire makers. But around 400,000 years ago, something incredible happened. At a site called Barnham in England, archaeologists found evidence that Neanderthals, or their ancestors, figured out how to start a fire from scratch. They struck flint against iron pyrite. The same basic principle as a modern lighter, flint and steel, sparks. This was monumental. This was the moment humans went from being dependent on lightning and volcanoes to being independent. Self-sufficient, they could make fire anywhere, anytime, in any weather. Think about what this meant for migration. Before fire-making, humans were tied to locations where fire naturally occurred. They couldn't easily travel through cold regions or dense forests without a fire source. But once they could create fire at will, the entire world opened up. They could move into colder climates. They could survive winters. They could explore places no human had ever been. This is likely one of the key reasons humans eventually spread across the entire planet, from Africa to Europe, to Asia, to the frozen north, all the way to the Americas. Fire-making made global human expansion possible. But here's something nobody talks about. Fire wasn't purely a gift. It came with costs. When humans learned to control fire, they also learned to destroy. Humans started using fire to clear land, burning forests to drive out animals, to create open spaces for hunting. This changed entire ecosystems. Some scientists believe early humans burned vast areas of Africa and Australia, reshaping the landscape permanently. Fire also created conflict. If your group has fire and another group doesn't, you have power over them. Fire became a weapon, a tool of war, a way to dominate. And fire created a dependency. Once humans adapted to cooked food, there was no going back. Our guts shrank, our jaws weakened, our teeth got smaller. We literally evolved to need cooked food. A modern human trying to survive on only raw food would struggle immensely. We became addicted to high fire, and in a way we still are. Every engine, every power plant, every furnace, every rocket, it's all fire. We never stop needing it. So the next time you light a candle, or sit by a fireplace, or even just turn on your stove, remember that you're doing something your ancestors would have considered a miracle. Something that took over 1 million years to figure out. Something that changed our bodies, our brains, our relationships, and our entire species. Fire didn't just keep us warm, it made us human. And it all started because one curious ancestor, instead of running away from the flames like every other creature, decided to stay and watch. If you found this interesting, subscribe. I explain topics like this every week. Next time, we're looking at something even stranger about our ancestors that scientists just figured out. I'll see you there.